Hello to everyone and welcome on the YouTube channel School for All. If you are discovering this channel through this video, I'm called Polar East, a computer science and ICT teacher. So on this channel, you are going to find videos concerning all your different practical sessions, whether you are doing ICT or computer science. So videos on programming, database, Microsoft Excel, and so on are available on the YouTube channel. So the first thing is make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, and each time you are done with a video, like the video and leave a comment. So thank you. Let us start the video. Ciao.
So today we are starting a new practical chapter, which is HTML. Very good. So this video concerns the ICT students and ordinary level computer science students. The first thing I want you to note is HTML concerning ordinary level computer science and advanced level ICT is the same thing. Good. So actually this video is for the ICT student and ordinary level student. Now, before talking about HTML, we need to define some terms like what is web development, what is a website, web application. Very, very important, because these practicals, meaning as you are doing something, you need to know at least the real life application of what you are doing. Now, this video will be very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. We are going to cover everything from detail. So if you are a total beginner, this is the right place, because I'm starting from zero, and in this video I'm GC oriented, meaning that we are going to study exactly what you need to know for your GC exam. Exactly, take note of that. Good. The next thing I want to mention is at the end of this tutorial, it's impossible that you're in front of a question talking about HTML and you're not able to answer, because I'm going to cover everything in detail starting from zero, as I said at the beginning. Good. So we are starting now. Here, this is the document. So this is the note. I've prepared everything. Now with this document, you can really study HTML without any problem, because in the document, as I'm showing something, I'm writing code, I'm doing screen capture to show the result. Good. Meaning just with this document, someone can really study HTML and test everything with his computer. Take note of that. Good. Now this document is available on the platform School for All. Like if you're online, you just go, you type School for All, or you go on Google. Good, because surely some of you don't know the platform School for All. You go on Google, google.com, and when you're at the level of Google, you just type School for All, as this is School for All. So this first link here is the platform of School for All. You click on that platform. Now if you're having if you're trying to access the website through a mobile phone, at the level of the bottom of your mobile phone, you will see things like past questions, notes, library, and so on. Good. So click on notes. Good. So here I'm at the level of my computer. So that is why the interface is a little bit different from what you'll be having on your phone. So I click on notes. At the level of notes, you choose your level. So advanced level. You choose your subject, ICT. Okay. So from there, you have everything like HTML note plus practical. So the document I'm actually using for the tutorial is it here. Go, so you click and you can access the document. Everything is free. You can download the document without any problem. Now concerning the ICT manual, so this is another document, solution ICT HTML ICT manual. So I've answered all the questions concerning ICT in your manual. Good. So if you click there, this is another document you can access, and from there you just copy everything. In fact, you study, you copy everything, and you fill your manual. Good, because there I'm answering all practical questions concerning HTML in your manual. So the aim is for you to study it and see how things work, and you fill your manual, you bring out the different printout and so on and so forth. So this to make everything easy for you. Good, and make everything available for you. So take your time and work. So let me just define some few things. What's web development? Now before we continue, is like you're seeing the platform School for All. You see when you're on Google, if I go back, School for All, this is the web page here. Good. Now to build this type of page that you are seeing, because this is what we call a web page, this is also what we call a website. I'm going to define what is a website soon, so don't worry. But yeah, the interface that you can access through a browser is what we call a web page. Like actually here, this is a web page here. If I click on note, this is another web page. This is a web page. If you click again, maybe I don't know, library, this is a web page here. Good. Now, so take note, the aim of HTML is to create web page. Take note of that. Even though this is not the only technology, or let me say this is not the only language we use to create web pages. Good. But for a base, meaning that when you are still learning, you must pass through HTML, because HTML in fact is the core part of a web page. Good. So after your advanced level, if you are trying to do maybe web development simply means trying to see how to build things like that, that you can access through a web browser. Good. So you need to know also what is a web browser. So these are things we are going to define in the note. So now let me just go back. So web development definition. So web development is the process of designing, building, and maintaining websites and web application. Take note, the process of designing. Now you are designing a web like this school for all. You are seeing that this is a particular style. If you access maybe the Facebook web page, you are seeing the style is completely different from what I'm having here. So when you're doing web development, there's this phase of designing. After designing, building now is like writing the code to implement this. So to have something like that, you need to write some code using what? HTML. Good. Now the next thing, maintaining simply means that if there's any problem, I don't know, at the level of my web page, I'm supposed to correct errors, do things like that. So this all, when you are doing web development, this is your job. Take note of that. Now the next thing is what we call a website, and this is what we call web application. So please take note, a website is just a collection of related pages. Full stop. This is the definition here. A website is a collection of related pages. For example, if at the level of School for All website, you realize that this is a page here. I click on past question, it's another page. I click on note, it's another page. So School for All is a website. Take note of that. Now we go to the next one. They say application, web application. Now the first thing you're supposed to know is that a web application is a website. Generally a web application is a website. So the only difference with a website and web application is, with a web application there is interaction between the user and the website. For example, when you're at the level of School for All, if I click maybe here, log out, let me just click here. Good. If I click on sign up here, you are seeing that here I'm having a form where they're asking my information. They're asking me to create my account. So you are seeing that by the moment you are interacting with the platform, like sending your information, making research, doing things like that on a particular platform, we call that type of website web application. Good. Whereas with a website, a simple website, there a user is not interacting with the platform. No, meaning that the aim of a website is just for a user to come and view what he's supposed to view there, especially these restaurant pages. So what happens generally, they are building the website because the user doesn't need to register, create an account, things like that. No, the user is just coming to the website to view maybe the different menu of the restaurant and things like that. Good. And maybe if there's any WhatsApp contact, you can take the contact and call the person directly. Good. But if by the moment that website you are already interacting by sending a message directly through the website, it's a web application. Good. So when it's an interaction, it's web application. But when it's no interaction, like you are just viewing the content, that's the website. Take note of that. So a web application can also be a web page, meaning you just have a single web page where you are interacting with the platform. It's also possible. Good. But you need to have this key difference in mind. Very important. Now the next thing is when we talk about building website, web application, things like that, at the end it's not like application software found on Play Store or App Store that you download and use in your phone. No. When you are building a website or a web application, for you to access that website, you need what we call a web browser. A web browser, in French they call it navigateur. Take note of that. Good. So what's a web browser? A web browser is just a software application used to access and display web pages on the internet. It's all like School for All. When you're online, just open any web browser. Example of web browser, we have things like Google Chrome, we have things like those using iPhone, we have Safari, we have things like Microsoft Edge, we have things like Firefox, we have things like what else? Good. So there are many web browsers that exist. So these are some of them. Good. Take note of that. Google itself is not a web browser, because generally students are making this mistake. No, Google is what we call a search engine. Like Google is just a web page that helps users to make research on the internet. Like you are seeing that actually I'm at the level of a web browser. This is a web browser here. This web browser I'm using actually is a Microsoft Edge. Take note of that. Yes, this Microsoft Edge I'm using. There's also Opera Mini, for those who know Opera Mini. So it's another type of web browser. You are seeing that it's when you open a web browser that you type now google.com. When you type google.com, you are falling on a page. So you are seeing that this is a web page here. So you are seeing that Google is a web page. But this type of web page, we call that search engine. Why? Because this web page is not allowing you to make research on the internet. Like if I type school for all, I say research I'm making on the internet. And school for all is on the internet. That is why I'm able to see results and things like that. And if there's any other school for all that exists in the world, you also see the names and things like that. Good. So please never forget that. And it's very important to mention it here, because remember that we are learning HTML, and HTML is used to create web pages. So if you are creating a web page, it simply means we need to view the result of the web page that we have created. So it's very clear that we need a browser. Good. So the browser will help us to view the result of the HTML code that we have written. Take note of that. Now, generally, when we talk about web development, also it is subdivided into two parts. This is what we call front-end web development. So the front-end web development simply refers to the visual part of a website or a web application. Like here, when you're at the level of school for all, everything that you are seeing is what we call the front end of a website or the front end of a web application. So the front end is what that visual part of an application, or let me say the visual part of a website, good, with which the user interacts. Good. Like here, if you want to interact with the platform school for all, this an interface. This interface is the front end. Now take note of that, please. And some of the technology used to build this front end, we have the HTML. Take note, never forget that. So just to tell you that what we'll be doing together, the language that we are going to study together is the HTML language. Take note of that. And the HTML language simply means that we are trying to create website, like we are trying to create just the visual part of a website. It's all good. But now what happens is, when you're at the level of register, when you enter your information, you enter maybe your different information, at the end you click on register. What happens here is the information that you are sending from this form, because this is what you call a form here. A form is just an interface where a user can enter data, things like that. Good. Or an interface where a user can make a research. We call that a form generally. Good. So you are seeing that when you enter your different information, then you click on register. These information are sent to the database of your application. So you are seeing that who is sending their information to their database, because the database is just there to store your information and so on and so forth. So you are seeing that apart from the front end, meaning that this visible part, there is another program behind. That program is what we call the back end of a website or web application. The back end. Take note of that. Backend development. So in simple words, the backend development is just the non-visible part, in fact, of a website or web application that handles connection of the front end with the database. Take note of that. Take note of that. Very important. Like here, this is my front end. When I click on register, there is a code that must take this data and send it into the database. So that interconnection of this front end and that database, there is a program behind. That program is the backend program. We call it the backend program. So never forget this. So we are done now. Some of the technology used for the backend, we have PHP, we have what else? Python, JavaScript, Java. These are backend program. That is why when you are doing practical concerning web pages, since you are not doing backend, that's why you are not studying the other technologies. You are just working with HTML. It's all. Take note of that. Now, okay, so we need to know the definition. That's why I'm going very fast at that, because I'm just giving you the key point, what's important for you. The rest is not really important. Now we talk about HTML. The first thing, you need to know the full meaning of HTML. HTML here stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Please never forget it. So the definition here is very clear. It is a markup language used to define the structure and content of a web page. Good. So let me give you the clear rule. Like if I move to School for All platform, School for All, you realize that at the level of School for All, there is a button here. These are buttons. Now you realize that okay, this is a nav bar here with options up here. This is a nav bar. You see login, register, things like that. You realize there's text everywhere. Good, things like that. So when we talk about HTML, the structure of a web page, when I say structure, is like, are you seeing that up there? This is what we call a nav bar, and if I move at the bottom, you see that yeah, this is what we call a footer. Good. So this structure is being defined by the HTML code. Take note of that. And the different content of your web page. When we say content, it simply means that anything like images, text, things like that, icons, they are coming from HTML. Good. So HTML defines the structure and the content, meaning that any text visible here is coming from the HTML code. Now beside HTML, this is what we call CSS. Good. So the aim of CSS is for just to style a web page. Like here, actually the CSS is present. That is why you are seeing there are colors everywhere. the things are well organized. You see the button, everything is nice. In fact, so to style your website, you're supposed to use what we call CSS. Take note of that. Full meaning of CSS is cascading style sheet. Paper 1 question, never forget that. Good. So the definition here is clear. It's a language used to style and design a web page. So the visual presentation is that. Good. Now there's also what we call JavaScript. So generally JavaScript is used to make your website interacting and also to create animation. Like here, when you're at the platform school for all, you realize that this button join WhatsApp, and you see that there's a small animation here. You see, so the thing is like blinking. Good. So I'm using JavaScript to do so. So animation like that. So take note of that. Yeah. So there are so many other things. So I'm just giving you the base. The base. I'm giving you the base. Good. So perfect. So after having all this knowledge, okay, so we are done with the theoretical part. We are done with all the different things you need to know concerning HTML, web development, and so on and so forth. So that when you are doing your practical, you know exactly what you are doing. So I'm going to end this video here because the video is becoming long. So in the next video, we are starting directly with practical, and the practical session that we are going to cover together is under HTML. Take note of that. Good. So see you in the next video. Don't forget to like this video and leave a positive comment. Thanks.